You're listening to Rep Radio. Our goal is simple. We support, promote, engage, and inspire the arts community by igniting the ghost light that shines on the stages of the up-and-coming, the unsung heroes, the brilliant writers, and the dynamic designers. Our podcast breaks the fourth wall to give you an inside look at the plays and the players. Stay tuned. Rep Radio is on the air. Today on the podcast, Michelle Paul stops by to talk about the virtual series Speaking of Family, a series devised using phones, tablets, and virtual meetings following a family dealing with the new normal that may or may not have a future. Here is my interview with Michelle Pauls. Welcome to Rep Radio. I'm your host, Darnell Radford, and today I am in the virtual studio because that's where we live, and I am looking at Michelle Pauls. Michelle, welcome to Rep Radio.
Hi.
So our listeners, we are a podcast, so you will only hear us. You will not see us, but I get to see Michelle, and I haven't seen Michelle in a while, so it's great to see Michelle. I stumbled across your web series, Speaking of Family, and I thought it would be interesting to talk about where the ideas of this came from and the process of doing this while dealing with a pandemic and life as through the lens of a pandemic.
Yeah. Wow. Good question now.
Yeah. Because I feel like it's kind of like in January we say Happy New Year until like some arbitrary date where we stop saying that. So I feel like the first part of 2021, I've been asking everyone, what was 2020 like? So let's do a quick review of 2020. Let's talk a little bit about where you were in March and how you got here.
Wow. So I think about all of that almost every waking moment of my life nowadays, because I'm in such a different place than I was a year ago in March 2020. And I made a promise to myself that I would figure out how to not just write about everything that happened, but also transform it somehow, because I believe in the transformative power of theater and also writing and the arts. So how can I turn my straw stories into gold, a la Rumpelstiltskin? So I have been thinking about that so much, and that's part of my journey and my process and my thinking and my art. And wow, where I was a year ago, my whole life broke open early in the year in 2020. And at this point in time, I had just moved into this apartment here. I moved out of the marital home into this apartment. And then my dad got sick, and I ran down to Virginia, and I took enough clothes to stay for maybe 2 weeks, but I ended up staying there for almost 3 months. It was quite lovely, actually, because it gave me so much time to reflect on my changing life circumstances and to not be so hurried and fast-paced. So in a way, all the early frenzy about COVID and quarantine, I was kind of buffered by that, by living on Chincoteague Island with my dad, which is it's a barrier island off the coast of the Atlantic, and which was so great for me because I was leaving my husband and my daughter was living with him still, and my marriage was going kaplooey, and what was I going to do with myself? All those big questions. So that's where I was exactly 1 year ago. In fact, just recently I looked at my one of my courses that I was teaching on Canvas, and I made a video for my students it was like a year ago tomorrow, telling them all about what beats are when they were taking their monologues and scenes apart. And so it's interesting that I was doing that. And then the very next day I jetted down to Virginia.
So as you said, beats, I was thinking about, so how did you break down the beats of last year? Where did you start seeing changes that got you through it?
Oh my God, I saw so many changes. I had the panoply of the pandemic, of course, that was overlain over everyone. And I also had my own, personal saga dealing with my husband and my marriage and betrayal, and not to get into all the details, but so in a way I was kind of protected from all the frenzy of the virus because I had my own personal frenzy. And along the way, how was I protected? I had so many angel people and helping me, guiding me, that I could lean on and ask for help, and they would be there, whenever I needed them. When I would call, and I stayed at several friends' houses, and and got a lot of support that way until I figured out where I should move. So every month from January stayed at one friend's house, and then February stayed at my aunt's house. While they were in Panama, they were still allowed to be in Panama. And then in March, I stayed at another friend's house until the apartment was ready. And then I moved into my apartment. And then at the end of March, I moved to Virginia. So in Virginia, I was able to find, breathe a little bit. And I started thinking, what can I do to be creative? And I just stumbled on this. A friend of mine that I met at a training on theater of the oppressed in outside of Seattle. She was running an online training of playback theater. And playback is where somebody tells a story and then the actors play back the story for them. And it can be really amazing because the people tell the story just as you've told it. And sometimes they act it out. And sometimes they ask clarifying questions. And always you see your life performed out there with reverence and honor, and in a community, and we are all honoring you and your story. So I thought, how can she do this online? So I learned how to do playback online, and that was really, really fun. It was so much fun doing playback online with people from all over the place, a lot of them from Indiana and some from Philadelphia and some from India, I believe. So that got me thinking, well, that's kind of fun. What else can I do? And, lots of people were having webinars about how to do this in COVID and how to do that. And I have been with Reinhardt Modeling Agency for many years. and they had webinars all the time about how to take advantage of your time during COVID as an actor. And that was really great because I saw all kinds of, I got so many ideas, and I saw this one guy's web series called Quarantine Island, Mike Provenzano. And I thought, wow, that looks so much fun. I could do that. What could I make a web series about? I didn't want to make it like the way he did it, because they did it all on Zoom, and he taught himself how to edit it. and I, it just looked a lot of fun. So I let that be for a while and let it percolate until I came up with this idea of this woman who's really frantic and always trying to fix problems, and her husband just got fired from his job, and she's freaking out. And I thought, well, that's a good place to start. What other characters would I need in it? And I knew that so I was going to play her, I figured, and I knew she had to have a sister. And I kind of put some feelers out there because I knew that we would be doing it for fun and love and not for money. And I was talking with a dear friend of mine, Carol Graham, and who kept saying she wanted to get back into acting, and it just fell into place with her. So she said, yeah, okay, I'll play the sister. So then I started writing episode number 1, and I'm writing for her and me. And as I was writing episode number 1, I knew this already, but that woman who was freaking out because her husband lost his job was me. And it happened about a year before that. And when I was on an artist retreat and I found out my husband had lost his job, and I freaked out. My God, what am I going to do? So it seemed like a really great place to start. And so I was writing for her, writing for me, and I was talking to her. I wanted her to have, I wanted there to be a young person in there too, a younger person, teenager. And I thought it would be good to have 2 boys and 2 girls. And she suggested, Carol, well, what if we made him mixed race? Because then we could also deal with some other issues that are also important, floating out there besides family and betrayal and marriage. So I thought that was a great idea. And I put out a call for a young feller, and we found Trent Rozycki, and he's a young actor, and I feel like he's really grown a lot through the process. I'm pretty sure he never did anything as crazy as what we did. And Carol and I both took him under our wings and, tried to help him grow as an actor in different ways. And then I also wanted to have a dad character, and I wanted the dad character to be the really wise, balanced one, because maybe that's what I was craving for in my own life. And I put a call out for that, and Val answered the call. And I knew Val from Walking Fish Theater days when he used to take classes there. So it all kind of worked out. So there were 4 actors, and all of them were amenable to recording on their own devices and rehearsing with me and doing it for free. So it was great. To round it out, I kind of looked into this whole editing thing, but no way can I do that. Way too much work. I can't figure that out. And I put out a call on film.org, and I got a ton of responses.
Wow.
Yeah. So I got Mariel, Ferry was one of the earliest ones, and I just really appreciated her really direct, straightforward approach when we were talking. She was a recent graduate of Temple, and she's a real go-getter. She sent me her portfolio, and she's been so helpful along the way, coming up with her own ideas too, and even a little bit of co-directing, because that's one thing I discovered. It's really hard to direct and be in the piece yourself. Mm-hmm. Although I always recorded rehearsals and I watched them. So, I tried to learn from that, but it was a challenge, but it was so much fun. We had so much fun doing it.
It's always great to have a second pair of eyes.
Yes.
They pick up on things that, even though you are so focused on it and you're thinking about it because it's coming out of you, but it's bouncing off of them. And then, so that is helpful. So that's great.
Yeah. And it's also, it's so hard to try to get the ideas across over the screen. Like, no, I want, can you like go that way? And then this,
Yeah.
So, because I'm used to touching people. When I direct, I like to get up and move around and, and get right in there with them.
Yeah. I feel like that's going to be the thing. It's going to be an adjustment when we actually get back into spaces together, to not be as intimate as we need to be to produce theater. I mean, just the act of us engaging with each other, in the community, we are a very intimate community, and to think about the spacing you'll need, when you get into a rehearsal process, and like you said, if you're someone who tends to physically move people, and and to really get your point across, it's going to be something that's going to be tough for us to do. Well, I would say a challenge. No, we're capable of anything. We're such a resilient community.
Yeah, so resilient. Yeah, so many great ideas coming out. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes when you think about the process, like I'm thinking about how close is this story to your life, and did you have to get past certain hurdles in order to write this, or were you living it presently while writing it?
Yeah, I think I knew as soon as that idea came to me about this woman freaking out and trying to control everything, which is has been a theme, a leitmotif running throughout me and my family's life forever. I knew that this would be a vehicle for me to transform my straw into gold. So there's a lot of things that I wanted to add in there things that just happened in my life that were unbelievable to me. So, my husband just losing, one job after another. He was really depressed. And, but in the moment, it totally, it also affected me because, we were married. And so somebody's mental health definitely affects everybody in the unit, in the system. Everyone is affected. So it was just like incredible, one thing after another, the jobs and like the crazy stuff I uncovered about him, and, betrayal and deceit and girlfriends. And, I was like, this can't be happening to me, yet it is. So I wanted to bring some of that into the to the work, and temper it with be able to modulate it a bit, so it wasn't just like blah, me and all my problems, but one crazy thing after another. I knew it was going to be the journey of this woman. Eventually she was going to leave him. I didn't know where she was going to go. I don't want to say anything in case people didn't watch that part yet. There was a surprise at the end. And also a journey about learning and spirituality, which is a big part of my own personal journey. And so I like to poke fun at myself, and I hope that that's funny when I'm doing that, and I hope that people who watch that can see something that they can relate to in themselves or in their relationship with any family members, and also that they might be able to laugh at, oh my God, I've done that too. And oh yeah, that's cringy, but maybe I can laugh at it as well. Because there are so many things also as I've been reflecting and studying how my place in the world and how I got here, and the family that I somehow ended up with, and my role in it. Crazy stuff, like, oh my God, we say things like that and we don't think it's funny. But it is funny. When I'm writing it down and then I'm watching it and I'm laughing, like, yeah, this is me and my family. And when it's happening, it's not funny. But when I'm watching it, it's funny. So it's strange.
And often we laugh at it because we relate to it.
Yes. Yeah.
We're just saying, oh my God, I can't believe that sounds like me, or that's my mom.
Yes. Or that's me sounding like my mom or my Yeah. Yeah. There's this one line, I forget what it, I'm not going to complain. I'm not a complainer. I'm a realist. And I heard somebody in my family say that before, but I've also heard myself say it in my own head. It's ridiculous. But yeah.
I'm very convinced that I'm a realist as well. But I can totally understand how I could be perceived as a complainer. I think everybody can understand that. Just that feeling of not being heard. And because in your head, you're being so clear, you think, but are you?
Right. And there's this line between, this is terrible and it shouldn't have happened to me. And this is life, and life is not all beautiful, and wait a minute, I'm on that continuum somewhere. And, is this how life is supposed to be?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Was the thought of, this was shot entirely on Zoom, using the capable devices that were at all of your disposal.
Yep.
Did that thought make you nervous, or was that a challenge you were, running towards? I mean, did you feel like, yes, we can do this? This is probably the easiest way to do it, or you're like, oh my God, what am I? It's one thing to have one camera and then try to edit all of that together, but to have multiple cameras, and because I know that even with these interviews, I always think about, well, I can't control the camera on the other side, so I can control the audio because I can edit that. I can edit the video as well, but it's just the thing I'm comfortable doing. So I guess in a way I kind of stay in that lane.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't know, it was sort of an inspiration that came to me, and I thought, yes, I can do this. And, I got the actors lined up, and I thought, okay, that's another step. That's a sign. And then I got the editor, and she was so gung ho and so positive. Yeah, I can do that. And then the first episode that we shot, I wasn't sure because, when you record on Zoom, you might have two people side by side, but then you get it, and it's whoever's speaking.
Yeah.
Asked that Mike Provenzano about that. He said, "Oh yeah, don't record it to the cloud. You have to record it to your device." And so I had to figure out how to do that. Like, okay, here's another thing I've learned over this past year, how to do so many things that I never did before. Like how to figure out that I could figure that out. That's the big thing. I did. I figured out how to record to my device, and I sent it to her. And she's like, "Oh, I could do it either way with Premiere. I could just move things around." Like, oh my God, it's great. And she did say when I sent it to her, I was crossing my fingers. I was just trusting the universe that it was going to work. But the first time she opened them, she's like, "All the pictures are really small. I don't know what to do." And I said, "Okay, you're going to figure it out, Mariel. You can do it. Get back to me when you figured it out." And she did. She figured it out. So it was just a trust. It's also being in a trusted place, knowing that it was going to work out.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's great that you're on YouTube because most of the content on YouTube shows you how to be on YouTube. there's a lot of information there, and I feel like everyone is. Well, I feel like everyone is consuming that. I'm pretty sure everyone isn't, but there's so much resource in the very same space that you're going to host your content in. So I think that is very valuable. I've been thinking about how, it's interesting that we were not at all ready for this. We weren't thinking about it at all, as if this technology didn't exist. We all had smartphones because we're very busy people. As theater artists, we're always moving around and we always have to communicate on the go. But the thought of like, how do I put this together? How do I make myself look great on my phone? Like, how do I find my light? And all these things. What are the extra things that I need to have? How do I talk at this camera without, and make it organic?
Right.
These are things, it does take a little bit of time to do, and then attach a script to this whole process.
Right. That was the other thing. I was debating whether it was going to be improv or scripted, and because the guy Mike, his was basically improv, and I thought, because I wanted to tell a story, and I had a tone in mind. So there were a few bits and pieces improv, and as we were rehearsing, and I'm not a stickler either, saying you have to get that word right, because some people are better memorizing their script than others, just like in real life. But yeah, it was on the job learning about, where should you look, and your eye line, and how can you enliven your scene at this moment, because Zoom is different than film. It's not theater, definitely, but it's not film either, because if you're just like standing there and with the intention behind your eyes, it's not enough. You have to move your hands a little bit. You have to fill this up somehow. Yeah. And so that was, different actors are more comfortable with that in different ways. The fun part was, after we shot everything a couple times, we got to do the cutaways, like the eye rolls and the crazy laughter. And that was Mariel's idea. Oh, it was so much fun. lot of great stuff came from that.
Yeah. There's a process. There's a process that I picked up when I worked at the fruit-themed retail store of import, organize, edit, and share. So the first part is you're capturing all your raw content and you're bringing that into the space, and then you organize it, you put it all in its place, and then the edit is where that fun comes in, those extra bits, and then it's ready for the world. I always think about that so I can set myself at ease to say, okay, it's not like I need background music playing or something to just capture this. I'm going to capture this. This part's going to be boring. I mean, I'm going to play it back and it's going to feel like nothing because it's only one layer.
Right.
And then once you add all those extra layers to it, that's when it becomes a thing. So right. it's just like being in your head about a first draft. You know, it's like, this is just the first draft. You know, exactly. It's going to have more than you need in it. You clean it up later, and you'll make sense. But you want to get all of this as much as you can and then figure out.
Yeah, you know, I did think that, well, if we were doing this in high stakes, high money kind of thing, there'd be a lot more passes through the writing process part and maybe cut down a whole lot. But, you know, we didn't that wasn't our thing. And if we start up again because crazy backer believes in our story and wants to back us, and you know, and say, okay, let's streamline this a little, that would be great. We'd be happy to do that.
Yeah. And if you gave it more time, would it have happened?
Right. If I gave it more time, would it have happened? I doubt it, because it was that whole push of, oh, come on guys, we have a bar, put on a show.
And maybe we needed to do this in order to do the next thing.
Oh, it's so wise, Darnell.
I was thinking about this because, you know, it ends the way it ends. You're like, is there going to be more? Or are we moving on to the next thing? And I always think about that when I think about like British television. Usually is like 6 episodes in a season or so, and it's always short because they leave you wanting more, and you're just like, what's next? And you're like, we're on to the next thing. You're like, but no, I want to live in this world still.
Life is like that, though, right? Life is not like a TV show. Life is, sometimes it just ends, and you have to, what do I do next? It's scary. Yeah.
So now that you've completed episode 4, and I mean, you could look at this as season 1, and then move into season 2, or you can move on to other ideas. Did you find yourself, as you were putting this together, coming up with things that you had to sort of shelf or table, like they didn't fit here, but there's enough here to do something else later?
Well, yeah. You know, Carol and I are great collaborators, and so we continued to work on many different things. She is working towards her healing arts, and she's actually going through a program for that, and we have ideas how to bring healing arts and using improvisation as part of that healing arts together for schools, as well as, you know, kids in school, as well as people on hospice and their families. So there's that. And then there's also I definitely see how season 2 could go. I don't really want to say it, but um, yeah, it has to do with some of the things I said already. So there's a lot to say, and there's a lot to explore, and yeah, yeah.
Well, looking at the Instagram component, which I think is great. It's like it's not the story, but it's sort of it's moving the story forward.
Right.
There was one image that you had up there of a vacation,
Mm.
and that could very well be your future. That could very well be Julia's future.
Yes, yes.
Trying to pick up the pieces.
Julia and Greta were on vacation before. Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. That could be
Yeah,
Julia's future. You are
yeah.
so right.
And it could be a time lapse,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it doesn't pick up right where it ended. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it picks up down the road,
Mm-hmm.
and you're way past that. Now that I've gotten that out of my system,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
what is next for Julia, Greta, Troy, and Kent?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah,
Who else will come into their lives?
yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah, and it was, yeah, especially for Trent, who was at the
Yes.
door.
Yes. Well, also for Greta, that was a big thing for Greta too.
Mm,
Because she has had a certain person in her life off and on, like woven into her life for many years, and finally she's ready to tighten that knot with that person. But yeah, and then life happens, and you don't, and changes occur, and then you just deal with them. And so something you were saying before about how you like to examine what happened the past 2020 and what could happen the future 2021 is also something that I've been really really focusing on, especially with my writing, which ever since so my mom passed this life in March of 2019, and I had been working on this play before that, way before that, and after she died, I took some time off from writing it, and then was able to find the ending finally, and that was what I'm trying to say is that was, I feel, the beginning marks the beginning of my writing beat. So I have been doing a lot more writing, and anyway, thinking about writing and finding a different place for it in my life. And I know that I'm going to write, at least to figure out, or help me figure out, or give different kind of meaning to my, crazy life in the past year and a half. And I've also been really fortunate to study, or part of this online class with a great writing teacher, and her name's Mariel, and our prompts are all about looking at the liminal space, the space in between, the space of what is no longer true and what is not yet true, the space between those two things. And it's such a rich and difficult space to to find myself examining, and let alone writing about. It's been really interesting because I've never pushed myself to write in that sort of way before. when I was writing plays or the web series, I just, I had a goal, and I said, this is what I want to do, and by this time, and I did it. But this kind of writing is very different, and there's a lot about letting go, and a lot about just letting it happen that I'm learning, that I have to learn in order to make it, to do it.
And that space between is yours to fill in. I mean, there isn't a correct answer yet.
No, there's not. And there's so many choices. We have so many choices. There's like, sometimes it's overwhelming.
Yeah. I think it is a challenge to see the possibilities and figure out, this isn't it. This isn't the only thing you can do. So once you get into that headspace, you can say, all right, I can shut this down and continue to have ideas. And those ideas will find their seat in the room, later. But you don't have to stop thinking, and you don't have to hold up the process either. It is interesting when you reach that mindset, or if you ever do, and it's like you're so in your head about it. That's why I love timelines. And I remember I was listening to a podcast where it was about screenwriting, and they were writers out in Hollywood, and there was an explanation, and then the response was, a deadline focuses the lights. And so I wrote that down, and I was like, oh my God, that's it. Because you can have infinite ideas, but a deadline focuses the lights. And so it's helpful to have a deadline so that you can at least get this down. But the ideas will keep coming, as long as there's no deadline.
Right.
So it's like you can see it's as far as the eye can see, literally, because there is no deadline.
Paradox.
There's no end in sight. Yeah. Right. So it is interesting. When I thought about this, I was thinking about there was a series on NBC called Connecting, and it only had a few episodes on NBC, and then it moved to Peacock. And it was a completely virtual series where this circle of friends connected in these virtual chats, and the story progressed throughout. And it was very well done. Wow. And I guess the mindset, I think it was a great idea, but at the time, maybe just people were not focused on it, or, this television is different. It's like, if we can't get ads on this, we have to move it somewhere else. So I think when I'm thinking about all these platforms that are coming up, it's actually a good thing, because it allows for the people who resonate with this to continue to engage with it. And as long as they find an audience, they're not as concerned about that real estate that is the television station. And I really hope that TV starts to embrace that a little bit more, because there have been so many shows over the years where, if it has hundreds of thousands of viewers, but that's not enough to keep it on the air. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm at the water cooler. I'm having a conversation, or I'm being so moved by this. I don't want it to go away, but it's like, find a way to keep this here. Like, how much could it cost? Because you don't know that stuff.
Oh, be more creative.
Yes.
Take all that stuff away so you can force to be more creative.
I feel like you have a YouTube channel. You can't that can't be it. Whether whether episode 4 is it for this story.
Right.
I think it can't be it. I think there is a hybrid in our future where
Mm-hmm.
we are looking at better ways to tell stories through this lens.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't want it to feel like a webinar, so it won't be a webinar. We'll figure out how to position this camera and are we talking to the camera? Because most of the time we're looking at the screen where everybody is. We're not actually looking at the camera
Right.
where we really are.
Mm-hmm.
So if we know that, then the opportunity for this camera to sort of disappear is actually more of a reality than we think.
Mm.
We don't really have to be too concerned about this camera if it's properly placed. We don't have to look directly at the audience,
Mm-hmm.
to tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's kind of how reality shows are. They just sort of, I don't know how long they have to go through it to forget that they are mic'd and forget that they are on camera, because there is a camera person running around. There's a control room, that's capturing this too. But at some point they have to forget, in a way, even though some of that is scripted to an extent, or at least directed,
It reminds me of hypnosis. So maybe they're all hypnotized, because when you hypnosis, you can do anything. You can forget that stuff, and it's just you can self hypnotize yourself. Maybe they're all hypnotized.
Well, I think about how, we had spaces like Studio 5 at Walnut Street. We had the Shubin Theater. We had Walking Fish.
Yes.
We had these intimate spaces that they're hard to manage,
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, like, I don't know, that money can pay for a camera that can, you can stage a room, and that room becomes the set, or you can have multiple rooms. And that's pretty much where most web series came from. It's like, how do we dress this room to be one of those scenes? It's like, it's usually a couch, it's like wherever the TV would be. But if we think more creative like that, and I have seen some work like that, Theater Exile's Sin Eaters was really great. The way they used the camera, I thought that was really enjoyable experience. Also, again with Exile, when they did D-Pad, really taking the story, and the lens was very much the story. This is how I would have expected to see this. It didn't feel like they were trying to capture proscenium, and it clearly didn't work. That wasn't it. So I appreciated that, and I think once we get used to this, we will start to see so much more creativity come out of it. And it's just something we have to learn and incorporate. It doesn't mean that we're walking away from traditional theater. Right. It means that we have more options. We have more opportunity with this. Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, I'm involved in this new play. It was a reading, but I guess it's not just a reading anymore. With Beacon Theater, and the play's called Edmonia, and the way that they're doing it is the editor. So, to your point, editors are now so important. He's using a program where all of the little squares he has a background for us. And then he's positioning the squares, and the people in the squares, he can make them big or small, or put them far away or close. And then we have to, know where face right or left, and how much to face right or left, and where the eye line is. So it looks like we're talking to each other in the little square background, like in the art studio.
Yeah.
and with a sepia tone because it's the 1860s.
Oh,
It's,
wow.
yeah, it looks pretty cool. It's yes. So
the blocking is going to be this new muscle and direction that will flex. For the virtual. How do we do this to be like, talking to each other?
How do we soak up the other character actor's energy? We can't look at them in the eye.
Yeah. I think audio is going to. I think sound is going to be important. I feel like our production teams, who are always important, were always amazing, always did wonderful jobs. Interpreting the overall vision of the storytelling. I think they're just going to be even more valuable now, because it's going to be necessary to figure out, okay, so is there a moment where the sound is only coming through the left channel?
Yeah.
Versus the right? How are we going to feel that if somebody's watching it on their phone? We're also thinking that too. Not everybody is going to cast this or airplay it to a larger screen. They're going to be sitting in front of a computer or on the en route on their mobile device, and that's something too. I experienced a cabaret last weekend, and we were making dinner at the same time. So, when I thought about it, I was like, I'm so glad I got this stand for my iPad, because now this little screen is large enough to sit on the table in our kitchen, and as we're watching, and as long as we can hear this is just as, this is good. This is something different. Like, we didn't have to think about it. And I also like the fact that we're able to, if it's done right, if there's a chat attached, we can engage with the audience while we're experiencing this too. That's something a little different. And I think it makes theater a little bit more accessible, because there's so many rules. It's like, not only did you spend way more money than you think is necessary, because you're so spoiled at the fact that a movie is on so many screens and it doesn't have to be so expensive, that you get into this space, and we used to dress up, and now we don't dress up anymore because we're in a rush, and we have to sit down and we have to be quiet. We have to unwrap our candy, and we're sitting next to somebody who's snoring. I never understand that.
Turn our cell phones off.
Yeah, I have to turn the cell phones off. Yes, exactly. And I feel like it's like, why wouldn't we want a live chat about this? And so we can do it because at our home, everything's lit anyway. Right. So we don't bring down the lights for this experience. We're very much in it. We're getting up and we're coming back, and we're not losing anything. It's a different experience. Yes, but I would very much love to see an opportunity where, if done right, there is a live experience and a virtual experience. And I think it opens the door for a lot more creativity. It's like, we can only fit 50 people in this house, but we can fit infinite amounts of people, or whatever the Zoom limit is, in the virtual space. So once we think about that, I would really love to see more smaller venues take advantage of the technology to help tell the story.
Yes. I can even see it in people's homes, and we stage things there and spread out to a wider audience. I think I'm looking forward to that when to get excited about the next thing when the next thing comes. Yes.
So I'm sending you good vibes about this piece. Speaking of family,
thank you.
It was an interesting, escape into a world. I had fun. exploring it. I watched it a couple of times to pick up on things that I missed, and I want to see more of this. You know, I want to see you back on a stage, of course, but you've already done this. So, however you feel about this right now, I'm sure this is your bottom now. So you have to do more of this. And you have a channel. You have a channel and you have a platform. And you know, and maybe there are more stories that come from this, or maybe this story continues, or maybe you just take one of these characters and give them their own storyline, which actually is something I'm seeing with Disney is doing with their Marvel properties. They're actually giving their characters a little bit more space so that we can learn more about them before they all come together. And I think that that's something very interesting. And I think, you know, there are a lot of writers who think like that. I'm going to create a world where maybe my first play has multiple characters in it, but these characters are being introduced in this piece. And I can continue telling stories with these characters, and I don't have to have them all. You know, I can take one of these characters and run with them in a totally different direction.
I love writing like that. And there's also other characters like in my play that didn't end up in the play that could totally have life like that on their own little platform.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. All right, cool.
Yeah, but you should. So it's called Speaking of Family, and there's an Instagram link, and so we'll have a link in the comments. I mean, we'll have a link in the description to get there, and there's a whole YouTube where it's all living. And if you haven't seen it, you should go see it. If you have seen it, you should comment on it and give Michelle so much inspiration to continue telling stories because I think this is the kind of stuff that we were so comfortable with all of these doors being open and the fact that they're not open. It did take us a while to adjust to not going to a theater all the time. And, you know, dark days were Mondays. Now it's 2020, you know, which is such a crazy thing to think of. I was thinking about how many shows I would experience in a year, and it was very close to 100. That seems like so many, but when I was thinking about it, I was like, yes, it's like there are like 3 opening nights a week sometimes. And you know, with that and the various conversations I'm having, I'm still in these worlds. And I love that. You know, I love having a conversation about it and then going to see the work and then still having more to say about it and talking to people who haven't experienced it yet and just informing my thoughts on the piece even more. So I hope that that's what we've been doing for the past 11 seasons, you know, for others as well. You know, and I'm just glad, that you made a little bit of lemonade out of the lemons that made up 2020. And you know, I want to give you good vibes. I'm giving you a hug right now.
Now I feel it. I feel it, and I hug back.
So let's see. Is there anything else we need to touch on about this? Have you decided yet? Is there going to be an episode 5? Is there going to be a season 2? I'm going to put you on the spot here.
You know what? At first I thought 5 episodes, but then I thought that I realized that was a lot to ask of everybody to put out for free. And then, you know, and then my husband died. So, you know, I had to deal with that. It kind of slowed things down for me. And then he died before we shot episode 4. So it definitely, there was a tint of that in there. So it really felt like the right place to end it. Although Julia and Greta will live on. They will.
Great.
Yes.
They have to stay strong. They have to be resilient.
They're staying strong, and they're growing.
Yeah.
We both know that the only way to keep going is growing, and they're growing, in fits and starts, but they will grow and things will happen.
Yeah.
You don't know what they're going to be, but Troy probably go to college, and that's okay too.
Yes. Well, I hope all these characters find their joy somewhere in this, and I'm so glad that you were able to put this together, and this is an example of what we can do. I feel like every theater artist needs to have a YouTube channel or some sort of virtual channel where they can kind of continue flexing their muscle and not just wait for a brick and mortar to call you back again.
Right.
Because we saw what happened.
Right. You're so right. Yes.
And I feel like the conversations that I've been having have been saying, like, we're going to be prepared next time. We're not going to go dark like this. Like your physical building may go dark because that's, the nature of that. But this just reminded me of, when I started my theater company back in 2004, I was like, okay, secure a venue that I can put a deposit on today and then start planning. And I was only concerned with getting enough people that would fit into that space. And I said, I want to grow out of this space. And so I was okay with being in that. I wasn't thinking like, I need a 300 seat house. I need it.
Right.
I just said, I hope there's enough room for people to be comfortable in here while we tell this story. And so now we're thinking about it. We're still creative. We still have our minds. Now we just have, I think we have more opportunity. And I think we should all come together and figure out what we can do to be as consistent and as resilient as we've always been, so that we don't ever miss theater, because theater is always in us. It's everything. Even when we have other jobs, we're still very much the theater people in the room at those jobs. And that is something I've always felt. I used to say at some point, I sometimes feel like I'm too much for the room. And it just means like, this is a space where it's not a theater space. And that's why I feel like I'm too much for this room. But I'm also, I'm also being me in this space.
Right. That reminds me of a story that my writing teacher told us about Toni Morrison. And she was on a book tour for Beloved. And the guy who was interviewing her was okay until he got to that whole part. And he's like, excuse me, but Miss Morrison, isn't this story like, I don't know, isn't it like, isn't it too big or something? And her answer was, life is too big. Life is too big and it holds everything. It holds stories about, slavery and redemption and murder and betrayal, everything. It's just, so yes. And
yeah. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for being vulnerable and, making art out of it, because no one would have faulted you for for taking a seat and collecting yourself. And instead, you found a way to create while dealing with all of this. And I think that is something that we have to sort of remind ourselves that we're capable of doing. And I think it is very helpful. You know, somebody's going to see this and be so moved by the fact that it's complete and it's 4 episodes. And, you know, it's going to encourage them to go do something and say like, wow, even through, you know, sometimes, because we never know what's going on behind the scenes. We just see the finished product. And, but getting to understand a little bit of what was going on behind the scenes, and then seeing that you were still able to stay the course, even with a little hiatus, which really didn't feel like anything. And the beauty of these platforms is that if somebody just found it now as they're listening to this episode, now they have all 4 episodes and they can watch them all right now. And, you know, so it's all consumed. But yes, please keep finding ways to be creative in this space. Please keep telling stories. Of course you will.
Okay.
And yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And I really appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, well, thank you.
To put this together and to talk to me.
I appreciate it. I appreciate having the opportunity to explain, and in a very a thoughtful way, you know, not a slapdash way, but
yeah, it's like a therapy session. and we're at time.
Rep Radio is an Emory production. You can find Rep Radio on social media at Rep Radio on Facebook, at Rep_radio on Instagram and Twitter. For more information, visit us online at em3ry.com. Ride with us. Emory is on the move.